This is a bit of a departure than what we usually do on this channel. We're going to talk about the Disney Plus series, Obi Wan Kenobi. This channel was predicated on talking about movies. That's what this is about. I'm making an exception for Obi-Wan because I feel like this should have been a movie. I'll explain my thoughts. I waited a while to talk about this now. I even write about it. I've been sort of formulating my thoughts for some time, and I've talked to a couple friends about it, and sort of this is sort of going to be the definitive expression of my thoughts on the offering that is the Obi Wan Kenobi Disney Plus limited series. So, good things first. Ewan McGregor. That's the only reason to watch this show, I think, in my opinion. That was what brought me back. That's why I was going to watch. Ewan McGregor was the most consistent thing about the prequel trilogy that George Lucas directed. And the vision was consistent too. The vision overall was a consistent vision, regardless of what your opinions are on the prequel trilogy. George Lucas had a vision, and he executed that vision, and I think that has to be respected, regardless of what you think. Within that, what came out of that was a stellar, consistent 3 performances from Ewan McGregor in each of those films, and he brings that to the Obi Wan Kenobi series. Fantastic. Even without saying any words, his facial expressions, his gestures, the nuance is only deepened here. And you can tell the man he feels like, he's living, breathing Obi Wan Kenobi. And it's great to see. It's great to see him on screen. It's great. It's fantastic. That is the show, right? That's what this is. What else is good? Hayden Christensen coming back. It's fantastic. It's great. You need that. I think you needed that to make it cool. You didn't need it, but it's nice. It's a nice benefit to watching this show. Along those lines, James Earl Jones bringing his voice into the mix. It's fantastic. He sounds fantastic, and I think it sounds just like prime Darth Vader, like what you expect him to sound. Which I don't know what it is. I'm sure other people have talked about this. If you've seen Rogue One, James Earl Jones's voice doesn't sound as sharp. That's probably the best way I can describe it. It almost sounds like it sounds like he's 90 something, and it sounds like that a little bit. There's pockets where it harkens back to the Darth Vader we know, and because we know how he sounds. But for some reason here in the Obi Wan Kenobi series, he sounds perfect, and that's what you need. You need, if you got Darth Vader in the situation, you need him to sound like that. Excellent. Where you find Obi-Wan is awesome. I think how they started. The first episode is fairly strong. I think it's one of the strongest episodes of the show. We see an Obi-Wan who is disconnected from the Force. He's in hiding. He is not even thinking about his abilities as a Jedi Master. This man was one of the most respected Jedi on the Council. And he's gone from that to, just a hermit. He sort of has his modest life in a cave, and he's watching over Luke, and that's what's going on. I remember reading somewhere that the show initially was going to be a trilogy of films, and I think that would have been a fantastic idea. I think it would have been great to do, if not a trilogy. I think it could have been a great strong single film, really, because I think you don't need a ton of stuff filling in the space between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. Of course, there are a lot of people who are open. They're okay with that. I feel like this is a space now that's been mined for story. We had Rogue One already. You have yeah, and in video game form, there's the Force Unleashed 1 and 2. You have all these things that are. I'm not quite sure. I think Jedi Fallen Order is also set in between that time. I have to look at it again. I feel like it's in between episodes 3 and 4, but I could be wrong. I'm likely wrong. Anyway, I think that 20-year span in between episodes 3 and 4 is becoming space that has been overly mined now. I think so. Really, you could have just done a solid single picture about what's going on with Obi Wan Kenobi in between when we last saw him, and between and when we see him again in episode 4. The show feels almost a little bit too long in that, and you have characters like Reva, who I know people have had their complaints about her as a character and stuff like that, and how she doesn't really fit and whatever that is. This is not a dig on Moses, the actor who plays her. She is great. The problem is the writing. I think this is the overall issue with all the episodes, where there are episodes that are strong, and there are some that feel like filler. And I think you could have just cut out all the fat. If this was supposed to be a story about Obi-Wan on the run and Darth Vader hunting him, and then they have the confrontation at the end of the story, that's what it could have been. But I think the show messes us up a little bit when they give us a confrontation too soon, and I know that's supposed to show us how not confident in the Force Obi-Wan is and all of that. But there are other ways to show that. I think there are other ways that they were showing that. And then you have him. Then they meet again finally at the final fight, and that's great. That's all great. I just think the writing is an issue in the film. The other problem, I think, a lot of people liked the inclusion of young Princess Leia. I wasn't sold on it, actually. I wasn't too thrilled about it. I feel like, again, if we're seeing too many legacy characters in the mix, you run the risk of cheapening their impact or dampening their impact. Like, it doesn't really give us any depth. It doesn't add any more. Seeing little kid Leia doesn't add any more to the gangsterness of what Carrie Fisher brought to that character. Like, Leia's already she's established as a certain character that we understand. We know who she is immediately. Seeing her as a kid doesn't really give us anything. Same thing with Luke. Seeing Luke as a kid doesn't add anything to it. I would have been more pleased with if the story revolved around Obi-Wan on the run, being hunted by Vader, and having just other people in the mix who didn't have anything to do with the original situation. And this is my problem with the sequel trilogy, that if the story is going to be about Rey and Finn and Poe and their adventures, have it be about them. We don't necessarily need to see Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Leia, Lando. All the legacy characters don't need to be in that situation. And if they are, you can see them once briefly and not kill them off. Don't see them once and then kill them. See them and then have them go back to what they were doing, and then have the new thing show us what's going on with these new characters, because that's what we're really there for. This is a news story. And I think the concern around doing a new thing around Obi-Wan is that you ruin what we know. You ruin the resonance of that character. And I don't think that the show did that, but I think because Ewan McGregor is just so great, you could have done anything with him and have it work. And I think overall it works. I don't think it's as great as some people think it is. I feel like the show really would have benefited from it being a movie. It could have been a film, and just have it focused on Obi-Wan and Anakin and that interplay, because he's obviously still thinking about the last time he saw Anakin. They hadn't seen each other in 10 years. There's a lot of stuff to mine there, and I think Ewan McGregor did a fantastic job playing that. He acted the heck out of the role. Really, it's yeah. I think that's the only reason why you watch. If you watch the show, watch for Ewan McGregor because he's great. And I think, and of course, when there are the major confrontations between Vader and Obi-Wan, it's rich stuff. And I think the Hayden Christensen being in the suit, being in the mix, was great. I wasn't. I think it was great. Speaking of the confrontations, the other issue I had was the fighting was cool. I wasn't sure how I felt about the addition of these new powers, new force abilities and things that weren't previously established. I understand that stuff it makes it much more thrilling and it's exciting, and it's it's just not something that we've seen before. So I think it's weird to see things like Obi-Wan using the force to throw big boulders and stuff. It's not something that he's just done that out of nowhere. I mean, that's fine for Rey to do, fine, but for Obi-Wan to do that doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel. I don't know. That's, again, I'm being nitpicky. Sue me. But I think overall the show was okay. It could have been a lot better. There were too many things writing wise that bothered me, and the plot wise that included too much of the stuff from earlier films, things that we'd seen already. I think you want it to be a completely unique experience. Obviously, it's not going to be super fresh and super new, but I think that you can make the story still be engaging and not have it hinge solely on one actor, because I think it mostly hinges on Ewan McGregor, and that's why it matters. Is why you watch it. The show was okay, wasn't great, but and look, it's not the best Star Wars Disney Star Wars situation. I think that's probably, it still goes to, as far as Disney Plus is concerned, The Mandalorian. None of the other shows have been able to come close to that. Boba Fett was decent, but it also could have been great. I think Obi-Wan is probably stronger than that, but the competition is pretty stiff. If you're gonna come up against, to even match The Mandalorian, you gotta really come with it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on the Obi Wan Kenobi miniseries. I think it would have been a better movie, and I think you could have benefited from paring a lot of the other stuff down. All these sort of extraneous type of side stuff with Princess Leia and the other groups of people who were under the thumb of the Empire, who needed to be saved, and all that type of stuff. You could have cut all of that out, or at least mitigated some of that stuff. Definitely lose Princess Leia. I don't think she needs to be in the story, and have it be centered around making sure Luke is protected. You could have actually built the story around that, because Obi-Wan's mission in exile is to protect Luke. You could have the story be built around that, and we don't even have to see Luke beyond like a cutaway or whatever. Anyway, my 2 cents. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Let me know what you think. More things coming up. In the meantime, I'm going to sign off. I'm out of here.